American Graffiti. You're just an ogre, just like my father. They paid them pocket change to shoot a movie that ended up grossing $200 million. dollars. A future Oscar winner nearly died in a horrific cocaine fueled car crash. A 12-year-old girl was found hitchhiking on the side of the road. She was already hooked on drugs. The future blockbuster director almost turned down the role because he thought the whole thing was a musical. The only Oscar nomination from the entire young cast went to the blonde, and for all her work, she was paid less than $5,000. And the sweet actress who held the entire cast together suddenly died in 2023. Stay with me. What really happened to the kids from Modesto will break your heart. 1. Candy Clark as Debbie Dunham. She became the only one from the young actors to receive an Oscar nomination, and for the entire shoot she was paid less than $5,000. Unlike you, I can see exactly what your dirty mind is thinking. It's written all over your face. Candace June Clark was born on June 20th, 1947, in Norman, Oklahoma. She was only 25 when she showed up for the cattle call for George Lucas's low-budget project that nobody expected to be anything special. Candy was paid roughly $300 to $400 a week for the brutal 28-night shoot, totaling less than $5,000 for a film that grossed over $200 million. No profit participation. 40th anniversary of American Graffiti. Not a single cent in residuals. She returned for the 1979 sequel, appeared in The Man Who Fell to Earth, and at the same time built a successful business in real estate and limousine services. 2 short marriages, no children. As of 2026, Candy Clark is 78 years old, alive and doing great. The ditzy blonde turned out to be smarter than half of Hollywood. 2. Richard Dreyfuss as Kurt Henderson. In 1982, after a cocaine binge, he crashed his car into a tree. He barely survived that night. Richard Stephen Dreyfuss was born on October 29, 1947, in Brooklyn, New York. At 24, completely unknown, he auditioned among more than 100 actors for American Graffiti. Why is every girl who comes around here either ugly or already has a boyfriend? Where is the dazzling beauty I've been searching for? George Lucas was so impressed by his deep analysis of the script that he let Richard choose the role himself. Kurt or Terry the Toad? He chose Kurt, the intellectual core of the film, and quietly became the philosophical voice of an entire lost generation. After Graffiti came the meteoric rise, Jaws, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and an Oscar for Best Actor in The Goodbye Girl in 1977 at the age of 30. At the time, the youngest Best Actor winner in Academy history. Then came the fall. A severe cocaine addiction in the early 80s nearly killed him in the infamous 1982 crash, when he slammed straight into a tree at full speed. That catastrophe became his rock bottom. Years later, he was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and became one of Hollywood's most outspoken advocates for mental health. 3 marriages, 3 children. As of 2026, Richard Dreyfuss is 78 years old and still alive. 3. Ron Howard as Steve Bolander. He almost turned down the role because he thought the entire film was a musical. By the time he was 18, he was already a household name when George Lucas called him. All of America had grown up watching him as little Opie Taylor on The Andy Griffith Show. He was by far the most recognizable actor in the American Graffiti cast and nearly passed on the project. When his agent sent him the script, Ron got confused and assumed it was a musical, a genre he had zero interest in. Since we care about each other so much, and now we really should consider ourselves adults. He was paid roughly $6,500 for the entire shoot. No profit participation. $65,000 for a film that grossed over $200 million. But here's what makes Ron's story truly remarkable. He used the graffiti paycheck to land Happy Days, then stepped behind the camera and became one of the most respected directors in Hollywood. And as a director too, did you think the show would last 7 seasons? No. Apollo 13, A Beautiful Mind, which earned him the Oscar for Best Director in 2002, and dozens more films. Married to Cheryl Howard since 1975. 4 children, including Bryce Dallas Howard. As of 2026, Ron Howard is 72 years old, alive, and his net worth is around $200 million. 4. Mackenzie Phillips as Carol. She was only 12, already using drugs, and was found hitchhiking on the side of the road. And the worst was still to come. Since Mackenzie was underage, the production officially assigned her a guardian on set. But here's the secret: nobody on the crew knew about it. By the time American Graffiti started filming, Mackenzie had already been on drugs for over a year. She started at 11. What followed was one of the loudest tragedies in Hollywood history. She landed one day at a time and became a teen TV star, but her severe drug addiction led to repeated firings. Then in 2009, in her memoir, Mackenzie made a shocking public allegation. She claimed her own father, John Phillips, had sexually abused her for years. America was stunned. Today she has been sober for many years, married 3 times, and has one daughter. As of 2026, she is 66 years old, alive, and has finally found inner peace. 5. Cindy Williams as Laurie Henderson. She was the true heart of the entire cast, and in January of 2023, that heart simply stopped. Cindy was paid around $1,000 a week. After American Graffiti, she shot straight to the top of 1970s television, cast as Shirley Feeney opposite Penny Marshall in the mega hit Laverne and Shirley, which ran for 8 seasons and became one of the most popular shows of the decade. Cindy and Ron Howard remained close friends for life. Off-set, Cindy married musician Bill Hudson in 1977. The marriage lasted until 1982, and they had 2 children. She survived a bitter divorce and a custody battle. On January 25, 2023, Cindy Williams died after a short illness at the age of 75. 6. Harrison Ford as Bob Falfa. He was a broke carpenter doing odd jobs when George Lucas accidentally cast him in the role that changed cinema forever. Ford had already quit acting after years of frustration and was making a living doing carpentry, building cabinets and doing small repairs for Hollywood casting director Fred Roos. Roos kept telling Lucas he had to meet this carpenter who could actually act. At first, Harrison turned down the role. The pay was insultingly low. He only accepted after Lucas raised it to $500 a week, about $2,000 for the entire shoot. He refused to cut his hair to match 1962 style and spent most of the production wearing a cowboy hat to hide it. Then came Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Blade Runner, Witness, The Fugitive, Air Force One, and decades of global superstardom. He survived a small plane crash in 2015, has been married 3 times, and has 5 children. As of 2026, Harrison Ford is 83 years old and worth hundreds of millions of dollars. 7. Paul Le Mat as John Milner. On screen, he was the cool king of drag racing. Off screen, he nearly killed Richard Dreyfuss. He was 26 when he landed the role of John Milner, the aging street racer slowly realizing his glory days were behind him. Paul was a Vietnam veteran and a trained stage actor. His tough, battle-worn authenticity gave Milner the tragic depth that made him the soul of the film. But the most famous incident of the shoot happened off camera. One night during filming, Paul jokingly threw co-star Richard Dreyfuss into the hotel pool, and he gashed his forehead on the edge. They had to cover the wound with makeup for close-ups. The next day, according to reports, Harrison Ford joined the same horseplay and got kicked out of the cast motel. Paul also suffered a severe allergic reaction right on set. He earned a Golden Globe and an Oscar nomination for Melvin and Howard in 1980 and returned for the 1979 sequel. He continued working steadily in character roles for decades. As of 2026, Paul Le Mat is about 80 years old, alive, and mostly stays out of the public eye. That's the entire cast of American Graffiti, then and now. Which story broke your heart the most? Let me know in the comments. I read every comment.